This question tells us that Mr. Ortiz took a taxi from his home to the airport. By the time they reached the airport, the taxi meter read $25.75. Mr. Ortiz tipped the driver exactly 20%. And the question asks, how much did he pay to get to the airport? I don't know if you've been inside of a taxi, but inside of a taxi is a little machine that keeps track of how much money you owe. And the further that you drive in the taxi, the more the machine adds on. So when you reach your destination, the taxi driver says, "Hey, buddy, okay, it's going to be $25.75, right?" And Mr. Ortiz, who's driving to the airport in the taxi, he's going to give $25.75, but he also is going to tip the driver. He's going to give some extra money to the driver, just like in the question that we did about the principal who's taking kids out to eat at the restaurant, right? So the principal pays the restaurant and also pays the waiter or the waitress. Here, the same thing. Mr. Ortiz is going to pay for the ride and then also pay the taxi driver, because that's how they get a lot of their money too. All right, so this is a percent problem. As I said, it's similar to the problem that we did with the principal taking the kids out to the restaurant. We're going to set up a proportion table. We have part and whole on the side. The first column is going to be percent. The second column is going to be money. Mr. Ortiz, the problem tells us, tipped the driver exactly 20%. So 20 is the part out of 100. Percent means out of 100 is the whole. And we know what the whole amount of money is that the car ride costs. It costs $25.75. And we need to find out how much 20% is of that whole. We can simplify this, the 20 over 100, by dividing each by 10, and so we'll have 2/10. And we can set up a proportion with this. Here we'll have 2/10 equals x over 25 and 75/100. And we're going to solve for x now. We're going to find out how much the tip is going to cost Mr. Ortiz. And we can solve that with cross multiplication. So 2 times 25 and 75/100. That's where we are going to begin. So 2 times 25 and 75/100. 2 times 5 is 10. Carry the 1. 2 times 7 plus 1 is 15. And 2 times 5 is 10 plus 1 is 11. And 2 times 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5. Now you notice where I put the decimal point here. Here in the factors up above that we're multiplying, the numbers that we're multiplying together, there is a decimal point that's 2 digits over to the left. And here in our product, in our answer, we're going to put a decimal point that's 2 digits over to the left. And it makes sense too if you think about it. So 2 times 25 is going to be about 50. So our answer is about 50, a little bit more than 50 because there was some change there. So 51 and 50/100. Okay, so there's our multiplication with our decimal. Now our next step is going to be to divide that answer, 51 and 50/100, by 10. And we can set that up here in a long division problem. It's one way to solve that. 10 goes into 51 5 times. 5 times 10 is 50. 51 minus 50 is 1. We can bring down a 5. And you can see here again, in the dividend, we have a decimal. And so up here in the answer, in the quotient, we're going to put our decimal point right directly above that decimal point. And here, 10 goes into 15 one time. 1 times 10 is 10. Minus 5, we can bring down a 0. And 10 goes into 50 5 times. 5 times 10 is 50. And 50 minus 50 is 0. So this is the amount, since Mr. Ortiz is going to give exactly 20%, this is how much he's going to give for the tip, $15.15. But the question asks us, how much did he pay to get to the airport altogether? So we want to take that $25.75. Yeah, but it's going to cost you $25.75. All right, and take that money, and we're going to add it to the amount tip that Mr. Ortiz calculated he's going to need to pay the driver. And that's $5.15. So we can add those up together. 5 plus 5 is 10. And 1 and 7 and 1 is 9. We can add our decimal point, again, lining up our decimal points here with the two numbers that we're adding together, as well as the sum. And 5 plus 5 is 10, plus 1, 3. And this is the total amount, then, that Mr. Ortiz is going to pay to get to the airport. He's paying part to the taxi company that owns the cab, and then also to the driver himself. So the total is $30.90. When you feel comfortable with this problem, go ahead and try the practice problem about Mr. Ortiz going to the airport that's on the homework quiz for this week.